Hello, everyone. So, really great to see you guys again. So today is the day for Mira webinar. So if you have ever joined us before, we are doing this completely for free for our customers and also non-customers. We know that especially during the pandemic, we all have a lot of questions about our fertility, about pregnancy, just a lot of questions over there. So we like to share the most popular concerns or topics you guys might have. And hopefully that will be some help to you. And today, our topic is how to increase your sex drive while you're trying to conceive. We know that, sometimes our sex life become kind of like a routine when we're trying to conceive. So that's why we like to share right now. And also it's because this month is our love season. The Valentine's Day is really approaching soon. So we want you guys to enjoy your life as much as possible while we achieve our goal. So my name is Sylvia. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Mira. I will do a little bit introduction about what Mira is if you're new to Mira. And also I'm so happy today we have Dr. Shawn Haywood, who is the founder of Reimagine Love, and also Kela Smith. She's the CEO of the Hormone Profile Society, and also she has a wonderful podcast you guys definitely want to follow. So maybe Dr. Shawn, you want to introduce yourself first, and then Kela, you can introduce yourself too.
Perfect. Hey, everybody. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited. So yes, I'm Dr. Shawn Haywood. I am clinically trained as a therapist and a coach. I have been coaching for, over 21 years now, helping couples work to reclaim sexual desire, arousal, healing around communication and emotional weapons that couples begin to use over time, helping them create just really beautiful collaborative communication, overcome anxiety and overwhelm. And I too used to struggle with low sex drive. So this is, something that I'm very, very familiar with and have such a big heart for.
I love it. And I am Coach Kela Smith. And like Sylvia said, I'm the CEO and program director of a company I created called the Hormone Profile Society. And this is a women's health hub for fertility, hormones, and the business of coaching. I also am a coach within the society, and I help women learn how to get pregnant either naturally or through have their ART treatments work better. I teach them how to cycle sync so that they can balance their hormones and just live a healthy, happy life. And I am super excited to be here too. I do have my podcast, the Hormone Profile Podcast, so check that out. And I am very excited about this topic too, because I was there. I struggled with infertility, and it was very like, we need to do it. We need to do it now, which is not sexy at all. So this topic so thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, ladies. I think today gonna be a lot of fun, and we have a super fun topic, and that's the best timing for the year to talk about that too. So before we get into the great conversation with the Kela and the Dr. Shawn, I just like to share a little bit about Mira. So let me try to share my screen. Okay. So you should be able to see the slides. So the reason I found Mira is because I have so many girlfriends who are just like my profile. They have now women have advanced education and career development. We don't even talk about having a kid until probably over 30 years old. And since high school, all we have been talking about is like how to prevent pregnancy. So then, but when we start to think about this, I have a really close girlfriend, and she just every one of us, we thought this would be so straightforward. But then she becomes struggling. So she went to, she tried for 6 months and no results. And then went for a doctor multiple times. But unfortunately, the doctor just keeps saying, you and your husband are both fine. We don't find any issue. You're just unlucky. And then she got so lost because it's very, it's an anxiety feeling inside her. And also there's no solution. She doesn't even know where to go or how she can do better. And eventually she has gone through IUI and was the, quite time-consuming, money-consuming process too. And then luckily she has her son who is about 4 years old now. So, but, I was really close to her and I went through this whole process with her. I thought there should be something that we can know ourselves better, then we can have better control. So even that we do have an issue or we are too late or whatsoever, at least we deserve to know the truth, to know our data so we can make better decisions. So that's why I invented Mira. So Mira is the fertility tracker, and we measure your actual fertility hormone concentration. So that means Mira, the number Mira will give you, just like the blood test in the lab. So it will give you how much hormone you have for your estrogen, LH. And in this year, we're launching progesterone and also HCG, which can track signs for miscarriage as well. So it's super exciting. So with all this hormone in your hands, and you can test anytime continuously, you will have a much clearer picture about when ovulation will occur. And also, if you have any complication, what you should be focusing on. And also this will help with your conversation with the doctor. So the doctor can make better suggestions to you as well. And also we know that everyone's different, so this will also help to discover your unique hormone pattern. So that will also help with the finding out what's really happening.
Love it.
So here are just some slides about our hormone profile. I'm not going to go through the detail, but we all know that our hormone goes up and down. Multiple hormones function together like a symphony. So that's how our body functions, and that's how ovulation could occur, conception could occur, pregnancy could occur. So hormone is very important because that's a fundamental driver for almost all the things happening in the female body in terms of fertility. And that's why we focus on, analyzing your hormone to tell you what to do. And also Mira is a clinically approved medical device, is FDA approved, and it has very high accuracy compared with a laboratory instrument. So without further ado, I just like to, say a couple disclaimer about this webinar. So we're purely here just trying to help you on some educational and informational content. This will not replace the diagnosis or treatment from your doctor. That's great. So then just last couple housekeeping things. So if you have any questions, so now we're got into the presentation for Dr. Shawn and Kela. So any questions you have, then feel free to type it in the chat window. And I will, and me and my team will record that. So then we will pick the most popular one by the end of the webinar, and we'll get into answer them in the Q&A session. But you can enter the question anytime. And the last thing we do before we get into the presentation, I like to have a poll about this webinar, so we can know better about you. So now there should be a poll on your window. If you can help to enter your answer, we will highly appreciate that. There are 2 questions, but basically it's trying to know better about you, so our topic, our discussion can be more tailored towards your needs.
I love that. Are you ready for me, Sylvia, or are we waiting for the poll results?
We're waiting for the poll results. Just give me 30 more seconds.
Okay. And I am so sorry. I have to step away 1 second.
Sure. Exciting results. Thanks, guys, for your input. So, not so
Very.
much we're saying. So,
This is great.
79% of our audience are actively trying to get pregnant. Great. So, that matches really well with what we want to share today. And also, 68% of audience is Mira customer, and 19% audience is using some kind of at-home tested kits. Great.
Love it.
So that's all I want to say. I don't want to overdo for the super exciting discussion with Kela. So maybe Kela, you want to go first.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sylvia. So first of all, I just want to say, what are hormones and what do they have to do with your sex drive? So hormones are chemical messengers that are secreted by your endocrine glands, which include like your pituitary gland, your thyroid, your hypothalamus, which is in your brain, your ovaries, your testes, if you're male. Even our tissues can sometimes emit these hormones, and they really tell our body what to do, how to feel, how to look, how to act, and this can greatly influence your sex drive depending on if they are out of balance. A lot of what I see, and you can know if your hormones are out of balance by using your Mira app and your Mira device, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But a lot of what I see when I have clients that are struggling with sex drive is that either their estrogen is too high, their progesterone is too low, their stress hormone is too high, their cortisol, adrenaline, something is causing a lot of stress in their environment and their life, making their hormones out of balance, which throws their sex drive off. And so I think just knowing that is why a lot of times it's a lot easier to pinpoint it and to fix it. So what do you do if you are having some low sex drive, some low desire? And so these are kind of my 4 practical tips. So the first thing is figure out why. Why is this happening? Is it because stress, like I just mentioned earlier? Is it your sleep is off? Is it that you maybe have some unhealthy habits that you are, maybe your diet is not quite dialed in the way you want it to be, or maybe you're staying up really late watching Netflix because you're working from home. So all of these things can be a reason why your hormones are out of whack and might be throwing off your sex drive. So that's the first thing. Let's figure out why, and let's try to see if we can course correct. If it is that we're staying up super late, let's address that. If it is that there's a really stressful event in our lives, I always say you can't get rid of every stressful situation in your life. Maybe you can't not talk to your mother-in-law ever again, but you can definitely try to mitigate stress as much as possible in your life. And so if there's something that's not serving you, if there's something that can go on the back burner, especially when you're trying to conceive, let's put it there and mitigate that stress in our life. So that's the first thing. Let's figure out why we have low desire. The second thing I would suggest is just to track your hormones. Use Mira, track your hormones and figure out, okay, my hormones are off. This is showing that I have my hormones are not balanced. And so I have this data. Now, how can I get my hormones to be back into balance? And then, so that leads me into the next piece is make a plan to change. If you see that your hormones are out of balance, maybe you learn that your estrogen is too high. What are some things that you can do to naturally bring that back down? And some things that I suggest are with diet. Eating foods that are high in fiber to pull that estrogen back out of your body to balance it out. Lowering your stress response so that your estrogen becomes balanced. Anytime your stress is too high, your estrogen gets off balance. And so really making a plan to make a change to get these hormones balanced back out, which will in turn help you to boost your sex drive. The other thing I suggest is really just to connect with your partner. And Dr. Shawn will talk about this a little bit more, but, especially if you're actively trying to conceive, the conversation is so much around we need to have sex and we need to have sex now. And that doesn't really, women have different desires, and that doesn't really lead us to want to have sex if we feel like we have to do it and we have to do it now because we're trying to make a baby. So I love to talk about, let's go on a date with our husbands or our partners. Let's reconnect with them. Let's have some non-sex touching and holding of the hands and hugging and getting some physical activity that is not sex to kind of lead into, if we want to have sex and we're trying to increase our desire, sometimes we just need to be warmed up a little bit. And so doing some of these non-sexual activities and dates and things like that can help to boost that low desire. Another philosophy that I recommend a lot is cycle syncing. And what cycle syncing is this is a functional medicine concept where a woman partners her food, fitness, work life, and social life with the 4 phases of her monthly cycle. So you're either giving your body the food it needs to make the hormones that it needs during a certain phase of your cycle, or you're giving your body the food that it needs to detox these hormones so you can eliminate some symptoms, you can have more pleasant periods, more boosted sex drive, better sleep, clearer skin, all of these things. And the way that cycle syncing works is, and I'm going to kind of go through the 4 phases here briefly. I have a lot more information in the free gift that I gave you guys and on my website. But so cycle syncing, your 4 phases of your cycle are your menstruation phase. So that's your period phase. So that's usually about day 1 through 5 of a 28-day cycle. If your cycle's a little longer, a little shorter, those days will be off slightly. But what this is your winter. So this is really more about your hormones are low, you're self-reflecting, you're eating more warming foods, soups and stews, you're eating more iodine-rich foods, root vegetables, B vitamins, fatty fish. You're giving your body the raw materials that it needs to start to make the hormones that you need during your period. As you move through your phase, the next phase is follicular phase. This is usually about day 6 through 14. This is your spring. This is when your follicles are getting ready to release that egg. This is when you want to be eating more salads and light and fresh fare, more raw juices. You can add in some probiotics to help with that gut health, some more fermented foods. So this is all about getting that follicle ready to release that egg. As you go through the phases again, your next phase is ovulation. This is when the magic happens. This is when, if you're trying to make a baby, we definitely want ovulation to be on point. This is when the egg actually comes out of that follicle. This is your summer. Your hormones are at their peak. You are, charismatic, and you've got some rosy cheeks going on. And this is when you definitely want to have sex if you're trying to make a baby, but also this is when you're going to want to have sex. Your desire is going to be at its peak because your hormones are hopefully balanced and at their peak. And this is the time when that egg is going to pop out. So this focus is all about antioxidants, berries, citrus fruits, leafy greens, beets, watermelon, anything that has a deep hue to it and is a fruit or vegetable. The darker the berry or fruit, the more antioxidants that it has. The more antioxidants you eat, the more you're going to protect that egg that comes out of that follicle, and it's going to be a really strong egg and ovulation. And then as you move through luteal, which will be your next phase, that will be day about 17 through 28. This is when your hormones are going to start coming back down. You'll start to have some symptoms. If you haven't done all of these phases throughout the month, sometimes you might have some symptoms of painful periods, bloating, cramping, fatigue. Cycle syncing will help you to eliminate those symptoms. So if you're in luteal phase and you're doing cycle syncing, hopefully you're not going to have a lot of those symptoms. But luteal is all about detox. You're starting to come back down. Your hormones are coming down. You're going back into winter. You are trying to detox the hormones that your system has made so that you're not recycling them through your body. Whenever you do start to recycle is when you start to have all the symptoms that I talked about, and it can affect your sex drive. It can affect your desire. You just, when you're cramping, bloating, fatigue, acne, you don't feel like having sex. You're like, no, I don't want to right now. So getting those hormones detoxed back out will help to alleviate those symptoms, which will boost your sex drive. So that is cycle syncing, which will naturally boost your sex drive. And some other kind of practical tips that I have for certain libido boosting foods. are dark chocolate, pumpkin seeds, pineapple, strawberries, and avocados. And so those are kind of my top 5 libido boosting foods. Some non-food activities that you might want to focus on as well that will help to kind of increase that libido. One is to try to make oxytocin. Oxytocin is your love hormone. This will increase your feelings of intimacy, of love, of connection. When oxytocin is high, it helps you to feel all the feels, which you can make oxytocin through, one of the ways that you can make it is through having an orgasm. So, doing non-sexual activities to get you to that place, and then having the orgasm will help to increase that sex drive and will flood your body with oxytocin. This also promotes partner bonding, partner connection. It helps to alleviate stress, which is another really important benefit. It also promotes circulation, blood flow. It improves your reproductive organs. So all of these things will help your body and your mind to be ready to have sex and to make a baby, if that is your goal. So thank you guys for listening, and now I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Shawn.
Thank you, Kela. It's so helpful. It's very interesting.
Yes.
So, Dr. Shawn, do you want to try to share your screen?
I'm going to try to share. Let's just give it a twirl here real quick. We were having technical difficulties earlier, so let's see. Okay, tell me if you guys can see this.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yay! Okay, so interestingly, it doesn't work quite the same, but we're just going to go with it, and I'm just going to click on the different slides, and we will do this together.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Kela. That was awesome. Yeah. And I'm going to piggyback on a few things that you said. So let's dig right in. So raising your sex drive, guys, right? I'm going to teach you 3 simple shifts that you can really start implementing immediately while you are trying to conceive so that you can raise your sex drive. Okay. All right. So at the end of this, you're really going to start to understand what's standing in the way between you and healthy sexual desire while trying to conceive, and empower you to solve it. But not just while you're trying to conceive, but beyond that as well, because so many women struggle with low desire at any time in their life, or it could happen anytime in your life. Oops. You're going to really learn how to regain some connection and care and joy and more fun in your sexual life and in just your life together, and also be able to start to relinquish some of the icky feelings. So a lot of times when our sex drive lowers, we start to feel like guilty or ashamed or not ourselves or embarrassed, or just like tons of feels, frustration, anger. There's can be so many feels, afraid of hurting your partner's feelings. So you're really gonna figure out during this next 15 minutes how to start to part with some of those emotions. Okay, so the first shift is understanding that there are 2 types of desire. Okay, this is such a little known fact, a shockingly little known fact. So the first thing we're going to look at is, I like to tease about sex and say it's complicated. While you're trying to conceive or any other time, sex can just be a challenge, right? Mm-hmm. Most couples at some point in their relationship need help reclaiming their sexual desire, their sexual life, their sexual intimacy, and just conversational intimacy. So while trying to conceive is a really key time that desire flattens, or if you've already been struggling with desire, can really flatline. Okay, so why is this? Why does this show up so much more when we're trying to conceive? So partly it's because of the pressure. The longer we're trying to have a baby or trying to make a baby, the more like pressure we feel, the more fear, then the obligation comes, and it's like it just starts to feel like it's closing in on us. And then it's a job, and we're like, ugh, I don't even want to have sex anymore. Like it's not even fun anymore. anymore, right? And these are all brake pedals, like serve as brake pedals, which we're going to talk more about in the second shift. To your desire and even your arousal system. So your sexuality while trying to conceive is a super breeding ground for flattening your desire and your arousal. So let's look at the difference between desire and arousal, because a lot of times there's a lot of confusion here. So desire is your want for something, right? So like, oh, I'm choosing to have sex. I'd like to have sex right now, right? Versus you're like wanting to have sex. Very, very different, right? When we're wanting to want it, we're fighting with ourselves. When we're choosing it, we're like, yeah, let's do it. It's awesome. It's going to be great. Desire or arousal, rather, and in a sex-specific context is just when your body is activated, it's open to sexual intimacy of some kind. It's like the electricity that goes through your body and in your genitals. So those are two very different things. We have arousal when our body is activated, and we have desire that's like, do I want to? Do I choose to? Does it sound fun or not? Okay. You can learn.
Hey, Dr. John, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Can you make that slides a little bit bigger so some audience are asking?
Okay, let me just, let me see here.
Perfect. There we go.
Oh, hooray, even better. Okay, awesome. Okay, thank you for asking, Sylvia. Okay, so you can learn to activate both desire and arousal independently or in tandem, but they don't have to work simultaneously, okay? And I'll teach you how to override desire with arousal here in a little bit. So desire style number 1 is spontaneous desire. This is what we hear about most, and this is what those of us with the other type of desire style like to compare ourselves to. And this is dominantly men over the course of a whole lifetime. So 90% of men host spontaneous desire, and that's like, it's what's portrayed in the media where like everybody's hot and heavy, and it's more what happens when we're at the beginning of our relationship, but not after we do the bonding phase. And like Kela was saying, where the oxytocin kicks in and we're a couple. Then it starts to change for about 85% of women. It seems to come out of nowhere at the drop of the hat, right? Like, I don't know if your partners are like my partner, but he's ready to clown anytime, any day. I'm not quite built that way, right? I have the different type of desire. And it can be sparked by, small things or anything. So that's spontaneous desire. 85% of women host dominantly over their lifetime, and it can change with a partner, and it can change depending on like beginning of your relationship or various times. But over the distance, 85% of women host responsive desire style. And this means that your desire is specifically curated based on an environment. It's a response to, it's got to be brought out. Okay. So it's not just like, boom, we're on, let's rock. And it's perfectly normal. It's just literally how we were made. So if you've been beating yourself up or comparing yourself to your partner, or like, oh, why don't I get turned on quickly? Like, I'm giving you a free pass to let go of that, because you are perfect and you are normal exactly the way you are. It's just that you haven't learned yet how to merge all of the parts together to elicit that desire, elicit that response in a way that's super fun. So responsive desire, also, it doesn't need to be present to lead to sex. You can bypass desire by tapping into your arousal system. Sometimes that's like reading or listening to erotica or using a vibrator, and all of a sudden your body is like, hello, Miss Lady, and you're ready. So a couple of things that are really, really important for you to remember. One is that you are normal no matter what your desire has been, will be, or is now. You are normal and perfect. 85% of women believe that they have low to no desire, but it's really that you just don't know how to access it. Okay, it just means that you haven't learned how to master this part of yourself. And you and your sweetie likely don't know how to ignite your responsive desire style, and sometimes even your arousal system, but you can both learn, which is awesome. Okay, so with this first shift, I just want to really encourage you to fall madly in love with responsive desire and to learn everything you can about it. And feel free to send me emails with questions, and commit to learning all the delicious ways to activate this other desire style, which so many people have never even heard of. Okay. So now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to do this activation process. And this is with your brake pedals and your gas pedals. We all have them, even if you have a spontaneous desire. Sometimes these brakes and gas work in your favor and against you. But for us responsive desire ladies, this is super duper important. Okay. So brakes and gas bridge the gap between wanting sex and wanting to want sex. So the wanting to want comes from a place of powerlessness, right? You're like fighting with yourself. You're like, oh, we need to do it. We're trying to make a baby. I need to want it, right? That comes from a place of powerlessness and is no fun for anybody. And then the other space is feeling empowered. Okay. And that's where we want to go. And that's what your understanding your brakes and gas pedals are going to take you. So we all have unique brakes and gas. How to operate them is the key. And that's how you become in charge of your sexual desire while trying to conceive and beyond. Sorry, gang. Okay. So, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So it's super important that you and your partner work together to understand your brake pedals and your gas pedals. And again, this is just literally how you become the master of this space. So let's look at some different pieces around our brake pedals. So brakes are literally the things that block your desire. Okay. When your brakes are on, you are stuck in the wanting to want instead of having the freedom and the ability and the joy of choosing sex. If you don't understand how to rearrange this, the trying to conceive dynamic actually serves as a brake pedal the longer that you are trying to conceive, right? So month 1, month 2, month 3, we're like, woo, it's all a big party. When it gets to be several months in, and for many couples, 6 months, 12 months, 3, 5. I've had couples that are 5 years in, they're like, ugh, like I really don't want to have sex anymore, right? So there's literally hundreds of brake pedal possibilities that are nuanced to you. And it's up to us to understand what those brake pedals are so we can take them off and allow that desire to come forth. Okay, so let's do some examples of brake pedals. So the reason that trying to conceive becomes a brake pedal over time is because it feels like pressure, whether it's real pressure or mentally, emotionally perceived pressure, it feels like pressure. And for most of us, when we feel pressure, that's our version of stress. And these are huge mindset pieces to work through and unbelievably important mind pieces to work through. There's so much data, so much research that says the higher your stress, the fewer your chances are of becoming pregnant because your body is just so locked up from a neurological perspective, physiological perspective, hormone perspective, like all of that, right? So we need to learn how to remove a lot of that stress. That pressure of trying to make a baby, worrying about making a baby, fear of not being able to make a baby, right? Then we lack connection or lose connection. We don't feel emotionally safe. We start to bicker and have pet peeves and emotional weapons. And then we don't want to spend time together, or we have body shame and fear. Like there's a lot of types of brake pedals, perfectionism and being self-critical. Those are huge with women. And again, when you're feeling all of these feels, you're like, no thanks, I'd rather not. I'd rather just sleep, right? Okay, so brake pedals off. When your brake pedals are on, desire is off, and it's also more difficult to tap into arousal. when you lower and remove stress and fear and worry, then those brake pedals like start lifting and making space for you. In general, you need to learn about your unique brake pedals and learn how to take them off and keep them off so that your desire, your ability to say, yeah, let's do it. Let's get to the place, right? Like, let's move into that arousal phase. That's going to be more and more accessible. So you're not just like forcing yourselves to make love during this like magical window that the Mira products show you how to have. Okay, so turning on your gas pedals. So this is like really amazing. Our gas pedals are just as unique as our brake pedals. And this is for you to figure out and for you and your partner to figure out, right? Like our brakes and gas work in tandem. This is a team effort. We're not getting out of that. Okay. So sometimes you can just like ask for loving support and help so you can have some time to rest and recoup, right? And I know when I work with clients, a lot of times they're like, but he won't do it the way I do it, right? Like if you have other kids, putting the kids to bed or dinner and whatever, right? Like I know they don't, but they're willing to give you support. And if this can give you some of the space to decompress, it's really, really worth it and helpful, and also allows that desire to rise. You're like, oh, he's so sweet. Look at all these things he does for me. Your desire goes up. Creating space for closeness and connection, listening to Erotica. This is huge. Clients sometimes feel like with Erotica or vibrators or toys or whatever, sometimes there's this like, oh, I shouldn't, or this isn't how I should get turned on, or my husband doesn't need to do this to get turned on, or my partner. But it doesn't matter. Like this is a place to really let go of the old limiting beliefs and the shame or the fear or the guilt or whatever comes up for you. This is about your body and your journey together as a couple. Like whatever it takes, have fun with it, play with it, allow this to be a journey of discovery together. And of course, removing stress and overwhelm and you feeling confident and proud of yourself. Like these are great, all great, beautiful gas pedals. Okay, so when you're managing your gas pedals, so these are your like most important pieces. Or, I'm sorry, managing your gas and your brake pedals. When your brakes are on, doesn't matter if your gas is on, your desire will still be off. Okay, so they need to work in tandem. Gas on, brakes off, desire, arousal come together. You can circumvent desire that like, okay, I know we should do it, but if you get very aroused, if you let that electricity go, if you do what it takes to turn your body on, to activate your body, you're going to have more fun during sex no matter what, right? Like if you are feeling that electricity, for sure, you're going to be like, okay, this is more fun. So sometimes it's okay to circumvent desire and just activate your body and then let the process unfold. You're going to have more fun either way. And then when your brakes are off and gas is on, this is like your highest opportunity for desire to rise and arousal to be activated easily. Okay, I just want to share a really quick case study so you guys understand like how this gets put together. So this is Monica. She and her husband, James, tried to get pregnant literally for 5 years before we started working together. At this point, they literally only had obligatory baby-making sex, and it was passion-free. It was just like, the way they described it was like, it was just kind of sad. Like, we're just doing it because we want to have a family. She was stressed and depressed, which happens a lot the longer it gets into baby making process. He was checked out and felt rejected and felt like he was only useful for his sperm, which was a super bummer for both of them. And untrue, of course, but that's just how he felt. But once they understood their gas pedals and their brake pedals and how to operate them, it was completely changing, life-changing, like it is for everyone who starts to understand this. And then they began to bring back really deep connection, which is going to be our third shift here, which allowed them to start having way more fun in and out of the bedroom. They were just like bringing life back to their love and their relationship. And after about 3 months of shifting and connecting and really getting clear about their gas and brakes and having fun with it, they got pregnant. Yay! Okay, so this is your opportunity to make a a decision and a commitment. To be able to master your sexual desire while trying to conceive and beyond, it's so important that you commit to learning about your breaks and your gas and doing this with your husband or with your partner, okay? Okay, so last shift, this is gonna be quick. Vulnerable communication. We have to have vulnerable communication for any kind of sustainable, amazing relationship to flourish, okay? So what is vulnerable communication? It's fearless, consistent, unconditionally accepting, kind, loving, sharing, and receiving, okay? It's devoid of blame. I swear, so Chris and I have a conflict-free marriage, and people are like, that's impossible. You can't have a marriage without fighting. And what I always tell people is when you get rid of blame, I dare you to come up with a conflict or a fight. Like, it's just not possible. So as you relinquish blame and you just like bring yourself together in your conversation from a place of like, just heartfelt space, you let go of blame. It's devoid of avoidance. So in most couples, we like avoid the really hard stuff or the shameful stuff or the secret inner stuff because we're afraid, right? We're like, they're going to think we're crazy or, who knows what. Like there's tons of fears. So we just avoid the hard stuff, especially around trying to conceive, okay? I can't imagine when Chris and I were trying to conceive for several years and through many, many miscarriages, I cannot fathom where we would be if we would be today if we weren't practicing this like really loving, vulnerable communication. Like, I mean, you guys know that's some really hard, painful stuff to go through. So you've got to be there, connecting with one another, sharing vulnerably and lovingly. So vulnerable communication, like, why do we need it? It's the key to closeness and connecting during a time that might just be the hardest part of your marriage for some people. It allows for collaboration and connection. And, literally, I encourage people, like, when you're using your Mira devices and you're checking your hormones and your fertility windows and am I pregnant, right? Like, do it together. It's so much more fun and you can be nervous together. And if you're not getting the results that you're hoping for in a particular month, then you're also sharing that and you're sharing the disappointment and you're like, well, poop, right? And you can hug each other and just be together and have that connection. Vulnerable communication expands your intimacy and your emotional connection. And obviously it allows you to communicate about your brakes and your gas pedals so you can, get that all rolling. Okay, so I'm going to give you, before we wrap up here, I'm going to give you like a couple of spaces to start practicing vulnerable communication because it's hard. It really is not easy to totally be fearlessly raw, vulnerably communicative, okay? So first, start slowly, right? Tip your toe into the water and start to share, and then a little more, and then a little more, and then your partner will reciprocate. And as you start slowly, you'll build courage there. You'll build that communication vulnerability muscle. It's so great to start with I feel statements. So this immediately takes away the you hurt my feelings kind of thing versus I feel hurt or I feel sad or I feel disappointed, right? It's if you pay attention to yourself, you will be shocked at how rarely you start sentences with the words I feel. What we do say is I feel like this situation stinks. It's not a feeling, that's a thought or a story. I feel sad, I feel disappointed, I feel overwhelmed. Those are feelings that a partner can tune into and want to tune into. And then the second piece, and everybody gets a giggle out of this one, but it's so awesome to set a situation up for success. So if you have something challenging to share with your partner, and I still do this with Chris sometimes, even though he's totally safe, but sometimes I'm like, okay, babe, I have something to share with you, and here's how I want you to respond. I want you to say, wow, thank you for sharing. seems like that was difficult for you to share. Or I might say, I just want you to hug me or hold space for me. So as women, we constantly hear, it's like the Everybody Love Raymond show, that like, oh, he doesn't listen, he's always trying to fix. Well, this is a way to set up your conversations to go how you want them to. You just set it up for your success, and you say, hey babe, I have something to share with you. Here's how I'd like you to respond. Can you do that? And they'll get a giggle and they'll do it. And then you guys will have a giggle and you'll feel closer just because you went through this little like fun, playful process together. And if I have a whole like program about this, if you guys want to email me, I'm happy to send it to you. Okay, so last committed decision. Make an ironclad decision and commitment to practice this like raw, vulnerable communication so that you can have deeply vulnerable, open, bulletproof relationship together while you're trying to conceive. Remember, this is one of the most vulnerable times in your life, you guys. So you need this connection in this way. Okay, so what you need to win. Understand your two desire styles and fall in love with this beautiful responsive desire style. It's amazing. When you learn to work with it, you're like, yeah, this is pretty cool. You haven't practiced it yet, but when you do, you'll totally get why it's so awesome. Understand your breaks and your gas so you can be the sexual goddess that you want to be while trying to conceive and beyond. And then, of course, open your heart to this vulnerable communication style so that you and your partner can just be there for each other in ways that maybe you have never been before, right? Like it's a beautiful time for you guys to connect. And then lastly, obviously you need commitment here to make different changes and different choices together. So make those commitments, make your commitments together. Okay, so in the chat box, I would love to hear like a heck yeah, if you're excited about this like new information and being able to tap into your desire style in different ways, or even if you've never heard of responsive desire or breaks and gas, like let us know. And then here's some resources that you guys are going to get in a handout that Miss Sylvia will be attaching. So if you want to reach out or we have a couple of free gifts for you, you guys can go and get those. All right.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shawn. I think that's
really
I learned a lot too.
Awesome.
Great. Thank you so much, guys. So now is our time for a Q&A. And while you guys were talking, and I have collected some questions from our audience. So first, I'd like to address a series of questions about Mira, and then I'm gonna, put some questions out there for you guys, more about sex drive, about housework, so on. If you guys see any question you'd like to answer, feel free to do that too. We're pretty casual. Okay, so question about Mira. First question, is there a table for optimal and normal range of the hormone? So the answer is yes, there is a table. However, that table is only for your reference, right? So you can find that table in the Mira instruction manual. So it's actually come with the analyzer, and there's the range about which for what hormone number that's usually means ovulation, or that doesn't mean. But based on our analysis and also a lot of scientific study, you need to focus on the trend of your hormone. So if you say your hormone is in the baseline and then is increasing, looks like a surge, so that's usually is the day for ovulation. Don't focus too much on the absolute number, because your peak value can be very different from a person to person. Okay, and another question about the future product. So when we are going to release other products, so the now we measure LH and estrogen in urine, and we will launch the progesterone and HCG by the end of this year or early next year. Progesterone is to confirm ovulation, and the HCG is quantitative HCG. So this is something we never had before on the market. That will tell you your fetal health. You have any sign for miscarriage. We know that 20% of the miscarriage happen in first trimester. We will track you up to 11 or 12 weeks. So that's the timing for that. And another question about what is the best time to test. So we usually suggest you to test about the same time per day. So you have the reference point. So your test results, when you compare their apple to apple comparison, most women use the first morning urine to test. However, that's not required. It's more for a convenience issue, okay? So if you like to test in the afternoon, make sure you don't drink water for at least 2 hours so your hormone's not gonna get diluted. Okay, so let me see what else here. Okay, so another question from Mercedes about the advantage of Mira with the OPK, regular OPK. So the biggest advantage technically is that we track the hormone quantitatively. So that means we give you your actual hormone concentration, like how much hormone is in your urine, and translate into more plain language. That means two things. One is much more accurate because you used to only be able to say you're above the threshold or below the threshold. Okay, so that means 2 lines versus 1 line. However, right now you can say how you're increasing, your trend of increasing or trend of decreasing, how high are you this cycle or how low are you. And in another words, also the second point, that means personalization, because we know for women's health, the biggest challenge is personalization. Everyone is very different. Every cycle is very different. OPK tend to make some mistake. If your cycle is irregular, your hormone suddenly goes higher, goes lower. That happened to a lot of normal women, not just the women with condition. So that will eliminate this problem, and that AI or algorithm will learn your cycle, so you will get much more accurate, personalized prediction. Okay. And last question is PCOS. Is Mira PCOS friendly? Yes, Mira is PCOS friendly because Mira can track your hormone trend. You can see the curve basically. So PCOS has multiple types. Some PCOS don't have ovulation at all, so you will know you're not ovulating. You need to see a doctor and do something. And some other people have multiple smaller surges. Their body is trying to ovulate multiple times, but only maybe one is successful or none is successful in the cycle. So at least you can say that. And when your body is trying to ovulate, you can try to have sex. So that's the best, that's the best way to capture all the opportunity for you to get conceived. And there's a Mira blog on our website too about that. Great. So then I like to have some questions for Kela and Dr. Shawn. So one question was really popular during your talk, especially actually Kela's talk, is that people are asking about male sex drive. So it seems like a lot of people are going through stressful condition, situation, lifestyle, and male lack of stress. Lack of sex drive in males is very common. Performance anxiety is another common issue. So do you have any suggestion for them?
Yeah. You want me to go first?
Either
okay,
one.
Great. Okay, great. Okay, so for male sex drive, very similar. So when you're thinking about brakes and gas pedals, so men with high stress and lower sex drive, it functions a lot the same. Unless there is some kind of medical condition, of course. But men can also be very sensitive to stress and overwhelm and the pressure of making a baby and having to perform at that particular time. That can be really challenging. Like these are big mindset pieces for couples to work through together. And this is one of the biggest things that, at least in our company, that we work with while couples are trying to conceive, is helping them get out of this stressful place and just be able to live their lives and enjoy the process, which can be very, very challenging. So the first thing that I would encourage is for the male counterpart to be working on what his brake pedals are and what his gas pedals are, and pulling the brakes off and putting the brakes on. Listening to erotica or things like that can be just as exciting for a man. So, if we need to do a little bit of bypassing of the desire of I'm down to clown, that's perfectly okay. And then with performance anxiety, so this is a little bit trickier one. In my old life, when I first started coaching, I worked with athletes. And so I did a lot of work around performance anxiety. And I actually used the same skills to teach men, again, unless it is a medical condition, which could be the case. If it's mental, emotional, then sports psychology skills work amazing for performance anxiety. And there's a number of those that can be used. Visualization can be really helpful. Like there's a lot of really great stuff. So, you can find a book on sport mental training skills. You guys can reach out to us and we'll be happy to send you some material about, the products that we have for sport mental training for performance anxiety. Yeah.
Kela, do you have anything to add?
Oh, I can't hear you.
You're muted.
There you go.
Okay, hear me now. Okay, sorry, my husband was in the background. I didn't want him making noise. Everything I talked about for women and, boosting your desire, balancing your hormones. Obviously, a man doesn't have a cycle, but all of the things I talked about affect the man as well as the woman. So balanced whole food nutrition is going to be the best place to start to get the sperm count, motility, morphology, all of that to be where we want it to be for making a baby, for having optimal health. Also, the pieces I talked about with stress, figuring out what is the stress trigger in the male's life, what is triggering him? What is there anything on his schedule that can go on the back burner, especially if you're actively trying to conceive? I know that's easier said than done during a pandemic, but I always say we can't control what happens in the outside world. We can't control that, but we can control how we respond to it and how we let it affect us. In our home, we can control that environment. So figuring out, what is causing that stress and what can we do to change our reaction to it will help lower the stress, which therefore will help improve the sex drive, improve the love hormone versus the cortisol hormone balance.
Thank you, Kela. Thanks, Dr. Shawn. So another question is kind of related. So people are asking about how to increase sex drive when they're tired. I know, after a week of work is tired, some people don't get sleep. So how can we do that at that time?
Yep. So I encourage you, I'm a planner. I'm a type A, and not that it's super sexy to plan sex, but I know on Saturday night after I've had a day off from work, I'm going to be more in the mood because I'm going to have a rest all day. Whereas Wednesday night, when I've worked half a week, I'm not so much in the mood. So find that time in your life, in your relationship where maybe you do have a little extra time and you're not going to be as tired. And I don't, the calendar, whether it's the actual calendar or like a calendar in your head, my husband knows Saturday nights are nights, so try to find that time when it works for you and him. And again, start with the non-sex activities to kind of get you in the mood. And you guys sit on the couch and hold hands and watch a movie. Maybe you cook your favorite meal together and kind of warm each other up. And then that night you have sex because you're not so tired from work and you've enjoyed an evening together, and it kind of naturally leads into sex instead of like, it's Wednesday night, I'm so tired, but we have to do it right now. And I know this is a little easier said than done when you're like ovulating at that moment and you're like, I'm ovulating right now, within the next day we need to have sex and it's Wednesday, but just trying to find that time when it does fit in with ovulation. Yeah.
Love that. That's perfect. We do some similar things in our company, our team, when working with couples who are trying to conceive. And there's so much available. Like, what people I think don't understand so much of the time is there's so much mindset here, so much emotional, mental shifting that can happen. I mean, it's like one of the biggest pieces. And so we teach a lot around systems. So if you're a really busy family and a high stress family, then you want to put systems together every single place possible so that you're like literally taking things off your list. So in our home and to the clients that we teach, like the first system we do is a meal system. So I don't care if you have the same tacos every single Friday from the exact same place. It's one less thing to have conflict about. It's one less thing to have to try to decide, right? Our brain, by the time it's dinner time, we're tired of making decisions. That's just how it is. And so the fewer decisions you have because you've made systems. So Monday is our soup day, you know, Tuesdays are tacos, and you do the exact same thing over every single week or every 2 weeks. And then you stop having to think about so many things. So there's meal systems, there's childcare systems, there's, having your weekly meetings so that everybody is on the same page. Like, oh, I have this day, that day. Okay, you get to be responsible for dinner this day. And then you're just like setting yourselves up for success better and better and better, so that you are less exhausted. You have less to think about. You can go to bed feeling less overwhelmed. You wake up feeling less overwhelmed because you have your schedules laid out for the week. So look for opportunities to put systems in place, and you'll just have more energy because things are systematized and in really great, like a habitual phase.
Thank you, ladies. So one last question, which is more technical. So they're asking, how many times should I have sex during ovulation?
So I recommend day 9 through 18 every other day, because your ovulation varies. Even if you're testing with Mira, and I recommend obviously testing with Mira, tracking your BBT, checking your cervical mucus, so you can kind of say, okay, within the next 36 hours, I'm probably going to ovulate. But then have sex about every other day. I recommend every other day, because if you go every day, sometimes that can cause the sperm to be less quality, less quantity. Sometimes you're like working with second string, which we don't want. We want the most optimal sperm to hit that egg. So to answer that question, every other day, day 9 through 18, and look for that cervical mucus and track with Mira to kind of pinpoint, okay, this is the day of ovulation.
Yeah, and I'm really going to default to both of those, the Mira ovulation tracker and calendar, and the every other day. The only thing I would add to that is at whatever point during those times, you guys can make it more joyful and more fun, right? Where your brakes are off, your gas is on, and you're like, woo, let's party. So where your bodies are more relaxed and you're feeling really good about the sexual encounters.
Thank you so much, ladies. I think we're running out of time. I know there's still a lot of interesting questions out there. But before everyone goes, I just want to share some really exciting things. So those are the great gifts for you, because you stay until the end. Okay, so we're doing a really exciting Valentine's Day giveaway for Mira right now. So you can enter that from our website. And our team should be sharing a link in the chat, or you can also just go to miracare.com, which is our website, and you should see a pop-up, and you just sign up over there. And we have a lot of great perks from Coach Kela's coupon and to some other tampon products or so on. So there's a whole bunch of variety of different products, and the total price will worth $2,800. It's a lot of money. So I really hope you guys win, and we're gonna have 11 winners and not just one winner, so you have a high chance to do it. So please take advantage of that during the time. And another thing is for the people who are on this webinar and who stay until now, this code is not shared with anywhere, so it's only for you guys who are online right now. So Mira Love webinar, and if you enter that code, you can get 15% of the Mira fertility kit or plus ones. Okay, so that's basically all the major products we're offering. So either you're a new customer, you're interested in Mira, you want to try, you can get 15% off today for your starter kit, or you're existing users already and you like to purchase some refill ones, and you can use that code too. So don't forget to utilize that opportunity as well. So great. So I'd like to thank everyone so much for your time listening with us. Thanks, Kela. Thanks to Dr. Shawn. I think this is super helpful. I learned a lot out from you guys sharing and the story and case study. I think that's wonderful. Thank you guys so much. And for our audience, I have two final survey for you. I already put on the screen, so please help us to fill that. This is more like a feedback survey, so we like to know how we did. Was that helpful to you? Was that relevant to you? So we can do better.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yay. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, guys. And if I don't talk to you, if I don't see you two ladies, or don't talk to any of our audience in person, and happy Valentine's Day.
Yes. Happy days.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.